Welcome, everybody, to the Rebel Crones. This is Elisa, your host, and today I'm joined by a remarkable woman named Teresa Blackburn. And I met Teresa through a mutual friend, but I've also been following her on Facebook, on social media. And I've been struck by the quality of her posts. They're always incredibly heartfelt, incredibly centered, and they contain so much wisdom. So this is exciting. So both of us get to know her today because we are just developing a friendship just now. But I feel like there's a certain kindredness of spirit. And I can like proudly say that she is a fella rebel crone. So I want to welcome today Teresa. Thank you so much for joining me.
It's an honor. It's an honor to meet you, an honor to be here.
Incredible. Well, I'm just going to jump right into it with the first question I love to ask, and that is, when did you first know that you were a rebel?
A teenager, 14 years old, jumped on a bus and went to South Miami, Florida. Thought I was all that.
Oh my gosh. So was it a difficult home life and you just decided to get away, or what was the impulse at 14? I mean, that's like at our age now, we were just talking about age. I'm 64, Teresa's 62. And so we have a lot of moons under our belts. And now we look back at 14. And at 14, man, I thought I was all that. I was ready to, discover like sex and guys and this and drugs and rock and roll. I mean, I thought I had it all
Well,
together.
this was more, my sister had already got married at 16. Well, she just turned 16, so I was a little end of my 14th year. But it was a challenging home life. And what I did was, I guess that was my first rebellious action because I saw an incident was my mother's fifth marriage. So he wasn't, a father to me, but I saw an abuse toward an animal. And it hurt me so badly. I mean, my eyes met the dog's eyes, and it's the one trauma I haven't completely healed yet in my life that still stirs up sometimes in me when I deal with animals and stuff. But that's when I just said, okay, enough's enough. I don't need to be in this place. And I knew that my soul I couldn't. That's when I went on the journey of figuring out who I was really.
Well,
I
that's
rebelled
really
every
but
day.
that's a profound realization, and like a lot of times we may look at the younger generation because we were talking before we got started. Teresa and I were sharing about the generation gap, and I think it's kind of an orchestrated gap, and it's a gap that's really harmful for, society as a whole, for community and for the family, is between elders and the younger people. And I think so often one of the things that as we get older is that we tend to maybe minimize people because they're younger. What do you know? You're not wise. Life have you lived? And we don't take them seriously. Well, you're talking about a 14-year-old that what wisdom. I mean, you were looking inside and your soul was saying, my soul, I do not align with this. And I will strike out on my own in the big, huge, scary world on my own rather than face that. And how many kids that we don't give credit to that are going through very profound stuff, and do we ever take the time and listen and really connect with them? So I just want to throw that in as like a side note, as a little thing of advice for for our peers that are listening to us today, that we just can't discredit it, because your story, Teresa, is just, that's a profound reconciliation with your soul at that point, and listening and moving on it. So when you packed up and moved, I mean, that was, a lot of young girls will get into a lot of trouble and taken advantage of at that age out on their own. I'm sure you're as cute as a button, and so how, like, a bit, I mean, we want to talk
I
about the aging process, but I'm really fascinated by what happened with you on this and how'd you navigate it?
well, I didn't know then, but in hindsight now that I look back over my life, I've been surrounded by something has protected me. And I didn't know that was happening then. I was just naive, But when I look back over my life, I see the protections over and over and over again that happened, in retrospect, that it just amazes me. I'm so full of awe about it because it's huge. I mean, we all have a lot of stories, but when I reflect on mine, it just blows my mind how magical it actually was, even before I realized how magical it was.
Yeah. So tell me about when did you start really waking up to the magic in life and to your, let's just talk kind of about your personal journey from that perspective, from the perspective of growing in your wisdom, in your kind of your autonomy and um like be able to reflection of yourself and knowing you. Is there a few like that's a pivotal moment? Do you have a few other pivotal moments that you really feel like this was a turning course in
Well,
my life?
I think getting married at 17, my husband was 34. He was a lot older than me. And I was very naive. I was already a hairdresser, so I was already had my career. I had already went to beauty school and became a hairdresser and went back to South Florida. But he was just so handsome. I thought I knew everything. And then I had one kid and then another kid 17 months later. And then within 5 years, we were divorced. And I wanted consciously to do it different than my family. I didn't really know how or what, but I started reading a lot. I started reading psychology. I just tried to figure out how to raise self-reliant children in a self-indulgent world, all this stuff. Those were some names of the books I was reading. It was through the love of my children. I
Mm.
think that was a lot of my awakening. So when they grew up, I had to do it for myself because they were my purpose. So a lot of my awakening and my learning was through the love I had for them. And I used to use the word balance all the time. And I thought I was really, but then only until my purpose left, did I go into my own self because I got a lot of things done and I had a lot of pride and I did a lot of good work. And my kids tell me I was a great mother and everything. And, I tried to teach them a lot, and as a single mother. But when my purpose was gone, I had to find my own self. It's almost like being thrown into the void. Like, who are you? That happened to me when the
Well,
kids
I
grew
want to
up.
ask you about what, because you were a young mom. What age were
Yeah.
you when this process, when they were really like on their own and it was your time to rediscover you and your purpose in a different way?
How old were my children? Well, my daughter, it was like her second year in community college, and my son, he was a gymnastics teacher. He was in high school back then, and it sort of, got in their life. Like, I had bought a home down in South Florida, and I was one of those mothers that didn't want to enable my children, but I was a really naturally sweet person. I had to fight the people pleaser thing later. I had to learn about all that. I didn't know that's who I was, but I was always struggling over being kind and nice with my kids and being strong and disciplined with my kids. That was a lot of work to figure out. So when they got to be the age where you say, okay, if you do good in college, you don't got to pay no rent, I'll pay your car. And, you want to be there and support with them. But then when they started getting to that age where, mom's at work all the time and the house is for, all the young people, I had to, really put my foot down, and it was hard. That's when the love that I had for them is why I put my foot down, because I didn't want them to not be self-reliant and to take advantage of me and learn that's what you could do in the world out there. So it was rough.
And so you would their so like their teenage years and them coming of age, like going off to school stuff, you would have been like your late 30s, 40-ish, something like that.
Well, I'm exactly 20 years older than my son. And so I was probably 27 wait, how old was I then? Let's see, 30. What would that be? See, you're making me use my analytics.
But you're in your 40s ish when this early
Well,
40s
I
happened.
was earlier, 20. I was like, yeah, in my mid to late 30s. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because what you're describing here is Teresa, is sometimes where I mean there's such like physiological changes that we go through as women, right? We have our different transitions that we're not ushered into in any way or taught about because we don't have elders around that can help us. There's the transition from being a little girl, going through puberty, becoming a woman, becoming a mother, and then come fast forward, becoming a crone, coming into our elder years. And I think like for me, one of the challenge has been with, and I never had children. It was by choice. I just knew as a little girl that this life was just not about having children. So I've always been like super clear on that. But there's been other catalysts that helped me to try to like to overcome this whole indoctrination and the natural tendencies of being a woman, which is like a peacekeeper, right? Is to hold and enfold and love and to respond. I mean, you look at and this is from a woman that I really respect. She's a doctor, Luann. I'm trying to think what her last name is, but she wrote a book called The Female Brain. And in that, I learned that it starts very little, as a little baby, when we get estrogen in our body. And for little babies, and maybe you can relate to this because you had a boy and a girl, that little baby girls are cued into like their parents, and they're looking at mom and dad's face, and mom smiles, they smile. Papa smiles, they smile. And they grow up really responsive and wanting to be, make people around them happy. They're responding to their environment. And little boys tend to, because of testosterone, because you have a influx of that, how they form, they tend to be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you're like, hey, pay attention over here. And but they're just built, wired differently with hormones. And I think that
Yeah.
that responsive nature of us as women and the caretaking, the innate mothering of us, that's a tough one. And especially, being a young mother, and I don't know and you were parenting by yourself, you had to really like put on your big girl panties and your big boy panties, I'm sure, to handle kids, especially in their teenage years. So I'm just saying that, understanding, like I get it. I get that would have been a major challenge of kind of
And you're
matching.
right. I didn't think about it. I was heading into my early 40s, I guess. I mean, I didn't really hit that stage where you're doing a lot of changing until probably a good decade later. I think after my kids grew up and left home, it was about another decade before I started to go through the change of life.
Let's talk about that a little bit. So now that we have getting kind of a feel of, you as like the rebel, and you also as a maverick mother, you're kind of like a real maverick mother. You're doing this. Sounds like you did a fabulous job. What happened then with you personally as you're getting closer, like in our 40s, the change starts beginning slowly. We start seeing the signs of aging and we just start feeling it. And then somewhere around late 40s, 50s, we actually go through the big change when we stop our menses. What was that like for you approaching that part of your life? Was it a scary thing? Did you know anything about it? Did you struggle? Was
Elise, to be honest with you, and I never really looked back about it. It just kind of came to me just now that I was so, I used to say it, I was a ripper and a runner. I was so preoccupied, I think, for so long with just doing and creating and running and blah, 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 that I didn't go in. Remember, like I said, it took, I didn't actually do the internal journey till about a decade ago. So, and I'm 62 now. So, I mean, there's several decades going on here before I
yeah,
started realizing I was even going through the beginning to change a life. I was
going through?
the metal kind of person. I mean, it took a lot for me to slow down and go in and, figure out. I had a lot of confidence in myself, but then, like I said, the stage you're talking about where you do start slowing down, that's when I started, I had to learn myself. I really didn't know who I was, to be honest. I knew what I could do, and I had confidence, and I had a good career, and I had good talent and all that, but I didn't know who I was, who I actually was. I mean, I was able to look back later, and say, wow, I was all right. You know what I mean? But I did go through that stage that it all kind of dropped away, and
Yeah.
it
That
was in
that's the
time.
time, and that is the time for that to happen. There's nothing. I think it's at the absolutely the right time for that's part of the cycle. I feel one of the cycles of coming into our elder years as women, and I want there's younger women listening to this, that it's nothing to be scared about, all the things you're told in society. This is like such a powerful time as a woman, that all the dictates, your hormonal dictates, societal dictates, all the things of being, either if you're a mother or a wife, a partner, or all the things, and with work and everything is all kind of out there, that we do so brilliantly as women, as being like the caretakers and the, just caretaking in whatever level. I swear to God, even in the workforce, you have men and women. The women do a different level of caretaking with the whole work environment than men will do. It's just innate to who we are. But when those hormones just start balancing out and you're not in all that fluctuation anymore, do you know what happens? It's time for you. All of a sudden, for me, I was like, here I am. Here I am in a whole different way. Even though, like, I spent a whole life pursuing that and trying to figure out who I am, why am I here, what's going on in this world, this is a crazy place. So I was always just super inquiring and curious and just pursuing relentlessly these things. But once I hit my change in life, that was when, oh my gosh, I felt like the static noise all of a sudden, just like somebody like turned all the static down of the world, and it just got like quiet. And there I was. It was like, oh,
That's a
and I
good
got
way to
to,
describe it.
yeah,
And it it might sound insane to somebody 20 years younger than me, but this is the best time of my life. I feel so great in a balance mentally, physically. I mean, I've had physical challenges because as we get older, we got to start paying more attention to those things, and take care of ourselves maybe in a way that we didn't before. It's a whole different, we take advantage of our youth, when we're younger, and we don't, if I know now, if I knew then what I know now, I would have been better about eating more organically and, just doing all the things that now I think people, a generation below us are, well, at least my kids are, they farm and they do, medicinal plants, and they work on all of that, and they research. And whereas my 20s to 40s, I was too busy to pay attention to any of that stuff.
But it wasn't in the environment. I was just talking to somebody, interviewing somebody yesterday. We were talking about that, where it just, our generation, and you had mentioned it earlier when we were chatting before we started filming about what it was like being kids in our days. And this is when I meant in the 60s, we grew up. And it was, you ran around. Your hands were in the dirt. You didn't have on pads and helmets. You fell, you skinned up your knees, you hit your head. We were out playing and interacting with each other. All these things, it was just like incredible, but it was just a different world. And some people are recreating it now, which I love. I see there's a whole group of younger people that are doing the farming, and they're getting back to nature. They're letting their kids grow up dirty and grubby, and putting dirt in their
Yes.
mouth and not freaking out, and letting them kids just have time to be kids and play. So I see that happening, as
Yeah.
a small percentage of it. But that the rest of what's going on is just insane. I mean, it's just
I
so,
know. I
it's just really insane. It's such a different world, isn't it? But there's
I
certain
think
work that
really
I feel.
like
Go ahead.
that the generation right before me that I'm acquainted with, uh, I feel it, like my youngest granddaughter's been homeschooled the whole time. My daughter, actually, her husband was in the military. So she was very academic because they were in Korea, the whole different kind of thing with the schooling. So again, there's a protection that I feel like I even kind of passed on to my children in a sense of things that they have been able to, sort of the way you just described the insanity that's kind of out there, in a lot of that certain timelines or whatever, the society and culture and all of that. They've kind of been bypassed in a way a little bit. They're wiser to it, like my kids, and I know they're not typical because I see not children, but young adults their age that isn't as tuned in as my children are. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that we are completely on the same wavelength, but they've got some good stuff going on, and I'm thankful of, oh my gosh, of all of that, because it could be a lot worse. I didn't have to witness my kids making decisions that would freak. I was like, because I've seen people my age, other women with their younger children, witnessing things or decisions that they've made and be like mortified over it. I feel so fortunate that I haven't had to experience that, because it just really makes me feel sad for a lot of people that they have
Yeah,
experienced the woes of society's,
yeah.
stuff, what I'm
And
talking
you and
about.
I both know that we're here on a journey. We're here as spiritual beings, as higher entities, manifesting into these forms and these avatars and having this experience.
Right.
And one of the points of wisdom as we get older is just knowing that we have to allow people to have their experience.
Right.
And we have to allow that to happen, and we don't take it on like, I mean, not that it wouldn't hurt to see your children making a bad decision, or somebody you love making something, what's going to happen with it. A lesson's coming down the pike with it, but you got to sit back. There's only so much you can do. Not that it
Right.
doesn't hurt your stuff, but I don't know, I'm speaking for myself, that there's a certain level of healthy detachment that has happened when I'm older. And I don't get worked up by the same things that I used to get worked up. Like, I know all is well. I know all is well in the real realms. And down here, we're having our challenges. If somebody needs a specific challenge in a certain area, they're going through it. I can't save it from them. If they need help or love or reflection and stuff, I'm there to support them. But we kind of, but there's an allowance that we have, like a graciousness and allowance of seeing, and compassion for seeing other
But
people's journeys.
I was thinking about when asked me to do this, what would be helpful in the sense of the younger generation. And what you just said, I have found to be really important, that we want to make ourselves available for those, younger women, or, our daughter-in-laws or sons or whoever, in the generation below us, by acceptance. What you just said is so important. I have found that it is their journey. You do really watch them make mistakes and do things that you already know. Like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. But you have to learn to allow them to be who they are, so that you don't, it keeps me connected to them also, because, and then they know I'm there for them if they need me, because it is difficult, the way society has changed so much, and the way they think in our age group, that's not honored like a lot of other cultures. So I want to be able to be reachable by them, so accepting them in their journey, even if it's completely different than ours, and it's going to be, I think, is really essential to help the communication stay open between us, because it is challenging, especially if you're trying to, manipulate their lives, or, guide them so much that you're controlling that.
And
I
no
just
wonder
don't.
they want to be away then. No wonder they want to, they don't want to be around you. When you're talking, Teresa, I was just thinking about how that as an elder, that we treat people with honor. We honor their sovereignty and their free will, and we treat them with honor, love, and compassion. And that's what comes back to us, because we've created that safe space. So then younger people are attracted to us. They want to be around us as opposed to being repelled. And I think that's one of the problems, is that, well, one of the many problems of not being taught what it's like to be a human, and being in a community, and being a parent, and being all of
And
this.
then it's okay to make mistakes.
Yeah.
It's okay to play, to be a fool, to just be yourself and end up doing something really foolish. I just try to inspire them to be real, be authentic. If so, what, you make a mistake, I'm not here to judge you. That's the thing, we don't want to judge them, or, because they're so, I think subconsciously the generation before us wants us to look to them, look up to them. And they're just, that's natural, we're their parents or whatever, but it's kind of subconscious. I don't think they don't want us to see their dark side, because they haven't seen their own yet. They're afraid that we might not accept them or something like that.
Right. And that's
So,
really ingrained. Yeah, that's so
what's that?
ingrained in it's so ingrained in the subconscious of our society, is that whole judgment thing. Because just think
Yeah,
about, we've been imprinted that there, no matter what your religion is, there's been a religious imprint that there's a judgmental God, and is weighing in the balance, right? The hands of balance, is the good, or you been bad? Are you going to heaven? Or you're going to hell? And no matter what you think, there's a deep imprint on that happens.
yeah, yeah,
That
there
there's
is.
something, yeah.
Like I said, I didn't go in to understand the light and the dark and accepting it until, I was in my 50s, you know. So when I witnessed the generation below us and the women, I don't expect them to do anything in particular. I hope that, depending on what they're learning or studying for themselves on their journey, that they get acquainted, they get exposed to that understanding of the polarity, that's within us, because that takes the judgment away. If you're able to understand the polarity, the natural light and dark, then there's no need for judgment anymore. And it seems like it helps people to have more of their light ruling them instead of, their dark
Oh,
shadows taking over, because,
if you're
you
ashamed, whatever you're ashamed of, you're trying to put under the right, it just gains more power, right? And more control over you. Now, that's not how it works. It's like when we embrace, this is part of the journey of healing. It was when we embrace what we've done, the stupid things, the dumb things, the evil things, the bad thing. We've all done that stuff, and as we can stop judging ourselves for it, know that we are so loved. We all have a host of, you want to call them angels or helpers or our family, up in the invisible realms. We have a fan club there, that's rooting for us and trying to protect us and trying to help us as much as we allow. But the main thing is we're loved. We are so precious and we're so loved and we're not judged. Nobody in the higher realms judges. There is no judgment. There's going to be, okay, this worked, this didn't work kind of thing. But like you're saying, we're living in this realm of polarity, this realm of, seeming opposites. This is all part of the realm
what's
where,
necessary.
what's that?
It's necessary. It's organic. We
It's the way
have to
it is here.
have the light and the dark and the contrast. Without it, how would we have our courage and our strength and it's just what happens when we let it take over and control us instead of us controlling it. And that's what I try to work with my younger generation that is around me at all about is you need that part of yourself, but are you ruling it or is it ruling you? That's what you have to look out for. And I don't have to judge because I might notice
Mhm.
this is your trauma talking, or this is you allowing your shadow to get you to do something that you don't want to do. You know, I might notice that, you know what I mean? But I don't have to judge it. I've learned that. But for that generation, for them to come to that place, it's a hard place to go. I mean, to come through for yourself, is meeting your own shadow and taking it, understanding it and, understanding the importance of it because we do, like you said, try to push it away, push it aside. I'm not like that, but you're going to keep on being faced with, yes, you are until you see you are, you know what I mean? And
And
then,
totally, there's and freedom's on the other side, right? A wholeness, like wholeness
without,
and freedom's on the other side. And that's the gift that we can bring as true crones. I
yeah,
often say that just because you get old doesn't mean you become a crone. You just got old. To become a crone is become a wise woman. Crone is the crown and glory of your age. And because we went through it and we've done our work with our shadow and we're still doing it. It's not like we're shadow free. We're still here.
boy,
We know we've learned how to navigate that, and then we can share that. And that's what I think is the compelling thing that I want to show the world by highlighting women like you is that we are compelling beings. We have been through the trenches. We have fought the battles, and the battles all inside, right? That we fought the wars, the real wars, and we've come out the other side. And here we are extending, the arms of love and understanding and non-judgmentalism. And we're here. We're here for you in this beautiful way that only a crone can do, because we've been through it. And it's so powerful. It's so powerful. There's a lot. Yeah, go ahead.
it's such a beautiful feeling that they have nothing to be afraid of because I talk to my daughter-in-law, and I'm like, I know you guys probably think I'm nuts because I'm always happy. I mean, it doesn't mean I don't have times where I'm sad or I have challenges or anything, but I'm like high on life in a way I never have been before. And they witness that. So that's the best thing we can do to help them is let them witness us. I had a health challenge not too long ago that my daughter came to spend some time with me. She's my oldest, and she's a yoga teacher and very, very, uh, she when she was young, I put her in an ashram for high school. I wasn't into the Hindu faith or anything like that, but a local in Sebastian, Florida, there's a place called Kashi. And she was having trouble in the high school publicly, in the public high school. So I looked all over, and down in South Florida, Vero Beach, Florida, they called it the Hidden Palm Beach. I couldn't afford these $10,000 a year public private schools. So I found that Kashi accepted like 5 kids for each grade in high school that they would take from the public that didn't live on the ashram for like $5,000 a year. So she went there. It was a college prep school. The people that lived there were from Brown and Berkeley, and they were running around barefooted, having their classes on the porches. I mean, it was very down to earth. It wasn't. So for many years she wasn't a part of that. But when they came back with her military husband to this area, and his family's in St. Augustine, they got back involved with it. So she does a lot of like pujas, and she's involved in Kashi some. So she came here to be with me when I had a health issue, and I had to really practice staying centered, because, well, you don't have kids, but when the daughter's a whole different dynamic than it is with the son. And I honestly feel, whether she sees this or not, I don't know, but I think my daughter saw how happy I was and how positive I felt. Even though I had a terrible health issue, I felt like it was kind of like a blessing. I mean, I see the magic in things. So my point is, she, as my daughter, was just able to witness me, be centered and handle everything with a positive light. And that's the best thing I could ever give to that generation, is as an example. Just as you live each moment of your day, together, getting up. And to me, everything is a ritual. I don't have to have a specific religion or a specific meditation. I feel like she was able to see her mother, 20 years older than her, feeling groovy, you know what I mean? Even though I was going through some challenges, and I think that's the best blessing we can give them, is our own healing, our own centering, our own work, our own personal work, and they will witness that. They witness it. It is so silly and so true, isn't it? That, you have to live by example. You can sit there and talk all day long to somebody, but when they witness you, like I've witnessed your channel and what you do and your beauty, and that's the best thing we can give them, is just ourselves as a healing and, person that is, healed a lot of our traumas and work toward, and not being afraid to get older. And they'll see that. They see it. They're wise.
There's an angelic applause going all around you right now, and the little lights flickering. Seriously, that was just a beautiful, beautiful outpouring of truth. I
Well,
just
my
want to say,
daughter,
I
I
hear
love her
you.
so. We're so much alike that at times, this is my favorite little. We're so much alike that we can butt heads if we're not careful, but not with me. I don't know. My own personal work has helped me in all my relationships, and I really feel as if that's the best thing we can offer one another and the generation below us, is to do our work, to find ourselves, to see ourselves and accept ourselves, because then we're giving them our truth, our organic self,
And
and
we're
it
giving
helps.
them, yeah, they're seeing a very different picture than what they are shown through media, through maybe their other friends' parents, and just kind of typically what's expected. with the whole aging thing. They're seeing the living proof of something very, very different. And, when I did the Rebel Crone, I came up with a tagline. It's aging with purpose, grace, and power. And I think what I'm seeing and witnessing through you, Teresa, is grace, is the absolute, shining example of a woman in grace. And that's part of being the crone. And grace is exactly what you said, who you are, is just because you've done your inner work, because you've done all of this, that you can sit in this graceful place of being an example, and I think that's compelling and that's magnetic. You talk about like polarity and magnetism, that's magnetic. That's not repelling. So often I think people get like, oh, I know, and I know better because I did this and I know, and I'm telling you because I know. You don't know. If you're doing that, you don't know. If you're still in a place of being angry and being bitter towards men, towards women, towards your kids, whatever, you're not there yet. Keep coming home, because there's healing still to happen with that. But when you get over that healing of self acceptance, self love, and, self centered, the true self centeredness, there's just, I mean, this is Teresa right there. You heard it, everybody. That is the wisdom in the place that's I feels like super compelling. Like I want to be around women like that. I feel so blessed having these incredible older women friends. And a lot of them, I'm like the baby of them because they're all like 70s and stuff. And I feel like, oh my God, I just love these people. I love these women. I want to be around them. I just want to hang with them, and yeah. So thank
Well,
you
that's beautiful.
for
I
sharing.
mean, it didn't come easy. I mean, when I witnessed another person coming from their trauma or coming from their imbalance or whatever, I don't have to judge it, or I just want to be steady and be centered for them because I've been there. Oh my God, that's how I met Maurice. I've been in the place where nobody loved me and life is horrible and I don't, but I just, we choose to, or we don't. It's really up to us. I mean, it's up to each individual. The potentials of the beauty you can have in life is nothing more than from within you to out there. It is so true, isn't it? All these little seemingly cliches that we read or that we whatever, it's real, it's true, it's a real thing. It does come from right inside of our own choice, what
Yeah.
we decide to do.
You're the answer you've been looking for. You're the person you've been looking for. You're it. It's there. It's all in you. You just gotta. It's just been covered with a bunch of crap from this world. It's just like get shoveling this stuff off and find yourself friends, real friends. And a real friend is somebody that's going to mirror to you who you really are. One of my pillars of my wisdom is that what's right with a person is the starting point. What's wrong with them is beside the point. And that's something I was taught years ago. In other words, that it doesn't matter what's wrong with somebody is just part of the mirage. It's part of what's the lie of the world. There's nothing you can build good off of that. If I focus, let's say like you're like super focused on how ill or how horrible life is. And if I come in agreement, like you're right, it's like, so girl, I hear ya, it's so bad. Well, I'm just giving my agreement to something that's not real. And I just disempowered you. Instead of coming in, it's just like, I understand that's a really tough, but I see who you are and I can mirror back everything that's right with you. That's power there. Oh my God, that's power. And that's what somebody can build off of all those things. And as a mother, I'm sure you could probably tell me story after story after story of your kids coming to you like wah wah wah, and you just had to sit there and like, and then you share with them the truth of who they are.
The opportunities are always there for us to check in with our own self and our own centering and our, no matter what it might be that we still need to work on or whatever. Like, I still have to watch myself that I'll, keep my hands off everything, but then I might find myself trying to control or navigate a situation to make it easier or better. and being able to, like you just said, with them, letting them, like my son came and spent the weekend with me a couple weeks ago, and because he needed to for himself and where he was, because all these kids, I mean, not kids, but everyone is in the middle of transition right now in some way, shape, or form, along with this entire planet. So I felt like what a wonderful opportunity it was for me to just stay in my center. Don't try to fix him. Don't try to tell him, what I think is good or bad or right or wrong or whatever, just it's the opportunity is always there for us to love one another. That's really the bottom line. I could have sat there and looked at what he's doing. That doesn't mean I might not, it doesn't mean I don't observe the things, the mistakes or the decisions or whatever that he may be making that I don't
Oh,
necessarily
you can
agree with.
see it probably very clearly. I'm sure you probably see that super clearly. What's what's
And
really going on.
I'll tell them too, I'll say, this is unacceptable, enough said. He'll know how I feel, but that doesn't mean we can't be together and, just let me be support or hold space, because I'd rather them be facing themselves. I'd rather them, and it gets messy, doesn't it? I mean, it gets messy. I don't know, mine was messy. It looked like my whole life looked like it was falling apart. I mean, in every way, shape, or form. But once I realized in retrospect, wow, that was the best part of my healing journey up to this point was when it got that messy.
Yeah.
It was when I really went to the darkest night of the soul, they call it, do you know Alan Watts, how he has that little thing he talks about the astronaut and the astronauts telling the story about, did he see God when he was out in space? And did you ever hear that little story?
No, no, go on. I haven't heard
Yeah,
that.
it kind of reminds me of that poem that for were it not for the darkest of skies, the brightest of stars could not shine forth. So it's like when Alan Watts was talking about the astronaut story, the astronaut, when he asked him, well, what did God look like? Did you see God out there in space? And the astronaut said, she's black. Yeah, have you ever heard that one?
No, but I love it. It's so
Because
beautiful.
where I met God is through the darkest time in my life is where I saw the most light, because it just happens. So you can't be afraid of it. You can't be afraid of some of the nastiest stuff that can look like someone's going through that, is like, I see the benefit of it, whether it
Yeah.
be the younger generation or our girlfriends or whoever. I know what can, like you just said earlier, come out the other side, man. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It is. It's part of the process, and you have to do the whole process. And it doesn't stop. I mean, I don't know about you, but it just, but it has a different quality to it as you get older because you've been through that before. I sometimes, Teresa, I sometimes picture life like I incarnated in with these certain like challenges, these gifts, and like these challenges. And I going around this like spiral of my life. And every time as I spiral up, I still go through I go by that same territory, but I confront it and I experience it in a different way. Do you know what I mean? So I did come back, okay, so here, this is me again. Like I got my controlling stuff, kind of control my partner doing it, but I'm aware of it in a different way and I can heal it and transcend it in higher and higher ways. It's not like you're one and done. It's like, okay, I came into
No,
this world with this kind of issue, and I met that shadow. I'm done with it. No, you're going to keep coming around with it, but in a more empowered way every time. I don't know if you
yeah.
can relate to that.
Oh, absolutely. I tell my kids, both of them, how proud I am that I mean, I was married twice. My second was 14 years. And both of my children now have been married for more than 20 years, both of them. And I know, I tell them, I'm like, oh, I know now the things that I may have should have done differently, not a shoulda, coulda, woulda kind of thing. It's more like I've learned lessons now that, because we do a lot of relationship, in our imbalances. That's what happens. I mean, we get together with people when we're too young or when we're not, whole enough in ourselves yet. So it's all about the journey. So you learn from all of that, and you hopefully embody it and take it forward. So now I watch my kids, I'm able to, and we don't see each other tons, but we're in good touch. My son's only 2.5 hours away, but my daughter's in St. Augustine, so she's about 7 hours away. But I have constant opportunity to try to remember what happened in my marriages or my relationships that I wasn't fully whole to yet. And okay, you probably have this one too, like being a hen pecking your husband. The honeydew list that never ends. You know what I mean? And we emasculate them, and there's so many things that as older women that we reflect on and think to ourselves, oh gosh, we just aren't aware of until we embody them and then become more whole within ourselves. And then that way, who knows what the future holds? You know what I mean? And when I watch my children or the younger generation, bless their hearts, I see them making the same exact mistakes I made, and I feel like I just try to hold space for them in that way. Or if they come to me, I try to be, as careful but as wise about it as I can, because I want them to be able to continue moving forward in their lives and in their relationships too, in a good and healthy way. But it's not easy, you know.
Oh, I'm sure it's not easy just being able to, in general, because as we come into our crone years, our perception of things gets pretty sharp. Like we can really, we start, right? You see what's going on. Not only do you see what people are doing and why they're doing it, you can see like these layers of psychology and stuff around people and motives and stuff. I mean, it's just like so, like it's just so transparent. And one of the challenges is learning when to talk, when not to talk about it, and what to say about it, or not say anything about it. I mean, I'm telling you what, that is definitely something I'm cognizant of all the time when I'm with people, even if I sit with my crone friends or my non-crone friends or my nieces or nephews or all this cute younger generation, is to just really to know like what to say in the right measure. As younger, I was like, blah, and I would just go on and on about things and all this and or nothing at all. It's just trying to find that balance. And I feel like now there's this beautiful balance that happens of, okay, it's time for me to speak up. And this is, and just allowing the right things to come through. When I have an agenda about it, I don't know about you, it's a different feeling. It's like, and you want something. It's not like the time to talk. But this is crone wisdom stuff and learning like when's the time to talk. So that to me has been a beautiful gift with age that's come is
Oh my God. The greatest gift is being able, and I'm still working on it, but being aware of just being present or just being with the person. And I have a tendency, because I spend a lot of time alone, to get excited when, one of my girlfriends from the area or something comes in and we have the whole day together. I have to watch myself because I'm a naturally very, very high energy person, which I've learned is sometimes to my detriment. I have to really watch my blood pressure, and I've got something called small vascular disease. I have really small veins, evidently, and they've played havoc with me once or twice, recently. Fortunately, I had been doing a lot of holistic things for many years, that I think saved me. It could have been a lot worse, but you know, my energy. Trying to just stay grounded and stay balanced and not talk too much. But I feel like I get like that sometimes where I'm like, oh my God, I could talk like.
Oh my God. I'm like laughing so hard inside. Oh my God, Teresa, because this has been like one of my biggest lessons of being Elisa is just, I'm not like a big social person. I've never been big social. I've been more quiet. I've been more doing my artwork, being an entrepreneur, working on building businesses, all this stuff. But I tend to, when I get around people socially, I am not shy. And I can be like very overwhelming in a situation, especially when I was younger, because I didn't like, I just would get so excited about things. I have ideas and stuff, and I would just, my ideas have always had this wonderful channel into the creative ethers. And so all this stuff would come through, and I'd be like, blah, 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 blah. And people would just be like, oh my God. And now I'm around other people. Now I'm around young women that are built like, like in a similar way. And I watch them doing that. And I'm thinking, oh my God, that was me. And even I've been around some older women. There was a friend a year ago did this circle. I don't know her very well, but she had this circle that she did with women coming in. And there was a couple older women in there that were so dominating and domineering. And I was just like, oh, I just sat back and I just witnessed, but I understood. And I didn't hold any judgment because, by the grace of God and also all my work I've done, I'm not that woman anymore. But I told you say that I'm laughing so hard because that has been one of my specific journeys was, knowing when to zip it and to pull back and to just witness and not be, you know. And then my energy, I've always like they crash, and then it's just like I put it all out, and then it's like, oh my God, I'm like so exhausted.
Balance, I tell you, that's like my favorite word anymore. It really has been my favorite word for probably decades, but I didn't really embody it as much as I have gotten better too. The older I've gotten is balance, to 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 be engaging, but to be grounded, to have your feet on the ground with your head in the sky, the whole spiel. It is like it's such a practice. It's such a presence. It's a presence, really. Just trying to be present.
It is so, oh my gosh. And when you're saying that, I'm thinking that, for most of my life, I was like, I just have to figure out, like, I felt like I was in a race car and I'm in this like body and I don't know how to drive it. And I'm trying to like figure out, here's a turn. Okay. Oh, too much gas. Oh, there's the brakes. I just ground the gears. Oh, I think I just dropped the tranny. Oh, it's all these like trying to figure out how to drive this vehicle. And that's like this balance thing. So you easily accelerate and you slow and you turn and everything is like this balanced, beautiful thing. But it's a journey to do that. We each have our own little things to overcome and discover with it. But I think that's like a beautiful word to really epitomize to just coming in and your wise years is this, oh my God, this beautiful sense of balance we have. It's just, I still have all those things, but I know how to like balance them and work with them. They're not controlling me anymore. I'm driving my vehicle.
I mean, I'm grateful that I had that kind of energy. I got a lot accomplished, you know what I mean? That needed to be accomplished with my children and my career and, everything, built my own home. I mean, I did a lot in the matrix, if you will, you probably know what I mean. If you have that kind of energy, you get a lot accomplished, and a lot achieved. But this is so different than, embodying our own self, just learning who we are, and
Yeah,
it's
no,
it's a high that there's no other comparison. All those things we could achieve and that we did, it's nothing compares to the kind of high that you get at achieving your own balance and going down in and healing and learning your own self. that's a whole nother realm of joy. It's a whole different thing.
It's a whole, I mean, I have like so many notes here of conversations that we're going to have in the future because there's so many beautiful points that have come up at this time talking. And, that is like a huge one. I mean, we've got to do a whole show, get some of our other, other crones on here, other rebels to really talk about like achieving in the feminine realm, as opposed to achieving in the masculine realm. So it's like real, and that's feminine realm. That's for men too. That's for men. That's not just indicative of us. Maybe we carry that more because we're in feminine bodies, but it's for men too. It's just how do we have a sense of fulfillment in life and what is real accomplishment and achievement? So let's save those topics. Let's do like a whole thing on that because that I feel is just something really close to my heart nowadays. Um, just because we have a
Yeah,
masculine
men,
dominated.
their sacred place, and women. I mean, I've never been, heavily into the sacred male, sacred female thing, but I know I can see it. There's been so many traumas and so much stuff between like the women. Like I had to be the masculine, the go-getter, the breadwinner. I had to be that role in my children's life that I had to come back and like it's almost like rebuilding yourself again. I'm not. I'm a feminine. And when I watch my children between my children and their spouses, and I see them having similar challenges of, the men are the protectors. There's certain innate qualities that have gotten skewed so badly by mistake, just, well, we don't know. It could, some of it's not by mistake.
Debatable.
I mean, we know that part. That's not something we like to talk about a lot, but it's not. I mean, we can encourage it to be organic and to be recalibrated, and that's why I said yes about this because I was so honored because I think what you're doing is a beautiful thing to try to bring awareness to you know generations that aren't in this stage of life that this is a beautiful stage of life and nothing to be afraid of. It's all up to us. This whole darn thing around here, it's up to us.
Yeah, and
I,
oh my gosh, I hold it that one, sister. That is just like perfect way to end this because I know we could go on for like hours and hours, but I don't want to lose people. We're going to
yeah,
schedule more times to talk. I hope you will join me. Like I said, I've just been making some like notes of things you've inspired for future conversations because there's so much to really to share. There's a lot in my heart I want to share. I know there's a lot in your heart that you want to share. And there's so much that's needed in this world, and we are needed. The older women, our influence of our love and our power and our protection, even as older women, as the grandmothers of society, whether you're a grandmother or not, we are like the grandmother role in the world, and we've got big, broad, strong
we
arms.
never get around one more human being. We are an energy that's so necessary in this time and on this planet right now. We are so valuable.
Oh my God, we are it. We are that end generation. We're like the capstone generation right now. And then as we move aside, then it's the next generation to be the capstone. And with that, oh man, we've got some stuff to share with y'all. We've got some stuff to say. We're going to say it. We are going to say it and not be afraid, ashamed, timid, or anything, because that is not what a rebel crone is. We speak our piece from a place of power, from a place of experience, and that's why it's wisdom. And, amen to all that because we're going to do it, aren't we? This is it. This is our time. I feel like it is our time right now. I don't know what it's going to look like in the future, but I hope to do my part in paving a way of giving women a voice in this world through social media to really anchor something in for the world, something beautiful, something magical, and something like steady, like anchored, something people can attach to in a way that's going to be comforting and is going to help and support the younger
And
generation. What's that?
inspiring
Yes,
moving forward.
inspiring. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm inspired by you. I think you are such an inspiring woman, and I'm very grateful that you come into my world. I'm very grateful that you agreed to chat with me, not knowing me, and but knowing, not knowing, but knowing that.
Yeah, I feel like I've watched you and Maurice a couple of times, and I've looked at a few of your videos, and like I said, I feel like I know you because we're our energies are similar, and I'm communicate. We're already been through similar things, so I
The
have
end point,
no.
we have different journeys to get there, but the place when you get to is the same place. It's that same place, the wisdom. And we could talk all and share. Yeah, yeah, I understand you. I get that story, but we have a different story how we got there. We all
Yeah.
have different stories, but when you get there, when you get to the place of being self-empowered, and standing in the truth of who you are. I mean, that's a very specific space that we share, and
Yeah.
it's what's the fun thing for me is learning how you got there. I have my way I got there, but it's fascinating to me how other
Oh,
women got to that place. They got their stories, and I love those stories and I honor those
there's
stories.
so much, isn't there? I mean, it's even trying to share who you are with one another is it's so exciting because there's so much to it, and it is just it takes time to get to know each other or each other's stories because there's a lot to it. There's a lot
There's a lot,
there.
and that's why I never worry about running out of things to talk about in my videos. It's like, oh my God, it's always there. There's so much to share. There's so much experience. We could do this every day for years. And I tell you, be fresh and new every time with fun things to do it. So promise me you'll come back. Promise me you'll come back. This isn't our only conversation.
Okay, I will do my very best to do
Do that.
that. Yeah,
We'll pick a
absolutely.
topic, and then we're also going to do some roundtable. So I want you to be able to join us for that. And I'm just going to sign off. Is there anything that left, Teresa, you just want to say before I sign off and we call it a day?
You mean to the audience or just with me and you?
Oh, to the audience.
Oh, I'm not used to this kind of thing. Be present. Love yourself. Just take your time. Take your time. That's all. Smile. I love that one little scene in I Eat, Pray, Love or something, where the guru is showing her to sit for 10 minutes and start to close your eyes and smile from the top of your head and then your forehead and then your face, and you just keep going all the way down your body until every part of you is smiling. And oh my God, you just it, it's such a beautiful feeling. And you could take it throughout the rest of your whole entire day, no matter what's going on. You won't get knocked off your center. That's it. Just stay in your center.
And smile on. Thank you so much, Teresa, for joining me. And thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope that this has been, well, entertaining and uplifting. And maybe it's just been a helping you remember things that you already know and maybe learning some new things. So I'm going to sign off. This is Elisa, the Rebel Crone. And as always, peace from within, because that's where it starts.